What is going on, everybody out there? Welcome to Gamers with Gains. This is a brand new episode of a definitive discussion where I talk with someone about some type of subject in gaming, whether it's a game, whether it's a topic in gaming, whether it's something that you guys want to actually hear about. Again, you guys can leave me a comment down below in the comment section. You can hit me up on Twitter, links in the description box below, letting me know what you guys want to actually see on a definitive discussion. But today, we're talking about Nintendo. We're talking about specifically the Wii U. So naturally, I had to go to someone that knows Nintendo, that actually has a passion for Nintendo. I went to my boy Yoshiller. Yoshiller, my man, welcome.
Hello, humans. I'm Yoshiller. Thank you very much for having me on the show. Yes, it is true. I am a very passionate Nintendo fan, and I've had the pleasure of working with Nintendo and Nintendo employees on various occasions. I got to play the Wii U before it even came out due to events like E3, and if you guys remember, the Wii U experience. I went to those. And all in all, although I can't save the Wii U, I can defend it for the good parts that it managed to convey to its general audience. So I'm here to answer any questions and have a thoughtful and thought-provoking discussion regarding the game console.
Yeah, so for me, this is ideal because, again, I feel like, we could talk about everything involving the Wii U because right now, considering all the history that's happened with it, again, both of us have seen the kind of like the beginning, the middle, and we're kind of getting close to the end of the Wii U at some point. So we know exactly about this console a lot. We know about its lifespan at this point. So I want to get into everything about it. I want to talk about the beginnings of it, the unveiling of the console, the reception of it. Again, after the Wii, the Wii was a huge success for Nintendo, being a console that was kind of marketed towards the casual person, that wasn't the hardcore gamer guy like what we are and such. But also, again, the library, and now at this point, the reception going towards the end of its lifespan, its sunset for that matter. But let's start off the beginning. Again, you mentioned that you saw the beginning of the Wii U. Okay, when you went to the event, the Wii U experience and stuff like that. What was that like for you? Because I remember watching the streams on the internet and seeing, again, like everybody was questioning, like, what is this system? Again, nobody knows exactly if it's a continuation of the Wii. Is it a separate add-on and stuff? There was a lot of confusion in the air, I remember.
Right. Yeah, so let's rewind a little bit. The Wii U was first unveiled at E3 2011. Prior to that, it was called Project Cafe, and I even think that the main idea behind the console was, I think it was revealed before the console was even revealed.
Where they something like that. There was a leak, right?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if it was a leak or an official press release or what, but somehow the idea of Nintendo creating a console where the controller had its own screen on it, that information was posted somewhere before E3. But regardless, Nintendo showed it at E3 2011, and the main comment people had was, well, what does the console look like?
Yeah, what is it exactly?
Yeah, you showed us the controller, and I remember people were saying, well, you can see the console in the
background.
Yeah. So to give Nintendo a little bit of credit, at E3 2012, when they re-unveiled the Wii U, the main display or the main picture they were using to promote the product was the Wii U GamePad leaning against the Wii U, which I think is smart. Okay, which I think is smart because you see what the console looks like, and you see what the main mechanic or gimmick of the console is. Okay, so give them some credit. However, it does not save the Wii U from its unfortunate naming process of.
I still think Wii U is a terrible name. I remember everybody criticizing that because the Wii was one thing. Everybody, when they first, it was originally, I think it was codenamed Revolution for the Wii, right?
Back in the day. Wii was Revolution, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody hearing that name when they first heard it was like, well, this is not going to do great. And then look what happened. Everybody started buying it because the way they marketed it as something that you could get everybody, again, your family, playing on Nintendo console. With this one, I remember some of the talk beforehand, again, before the initial unveiling and stuff, that I think it was either Nintendo or somebody kept talking about how this was going to be a version of the actual console or some sort of like new console that was geared towards the hardcore guys. Like, okay, they had the casual audience, now let's get back to the hardcore.
Right, because the main gripe with the Wii, well, this is the reason for the Wii success, but it's also the main reason people had a complaint with it, was that it was too general. It didn't focus on the gamer, it just focused on the people who would like to play this game at a retirement home or at a hospital. The idea was that motion controls can be played by anybody, and that works to Nintendo's advantage. And when you do that, you kind of take the focus away from games and more toward technological ideas, if that makes sense. So you have games like Wii Sports, which are fun. It's the #1 selling video game of all time, and rightfully so. And but as time goes on, sorry, I'm trying to put all my thoughts together. As time goes on, like let's think about the hit. Let's think about the hit Mario game for the Wii, which was Super Mario Galaxy.
Yeah, or Super Mario Galaxy.
Like,
So depending on what your flavor is, but I
yeah.
would agree with you. Super Mario Galaxy was that game.
But it's just you don't really use the Wii remote in too many creative ways, I guess. Or let me be more specific. You use the Wii remote in a lot of different ways, but pretty much any of that could be replaced with a button, right?
Exactly.
So,
Or an analog stick.
yeah, so I'm not against the Wii remote. I'm not against innovation at all because if it's anything Nintendo showed, it's that, something like the Wii can be a huge success. Just one simple idea can be a, a big bang in the gaming industry. So
That's
when
because
you move on
I
to
was gonna say, sorry to interrupt you, but it's funny that you mentioned that again. You mentioned the stuff about the motion stuff or whatnot. It was crazy that at that time frame, I remember that a lot of the talk, especially with a lot of the catalog with the Wii, was a lot of the motion stuff revolving around light gun games, specifically like Link's crossbow training. I think there
Mhm.
was also talk about a Time Crisis game or something like that on it, or House of the Dead or Resident Evil at the time.
Right.
That was
Yes.
what a lot of the hype was for that specific type of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, they're like the point I'm getting at with all this is I'm not insulting these games. Like Super Mario Galaxy is a phenomenal game. It's just when you think about incorporating these new advanced ideas into a game, does it become more of a game or less of a game? A game that
Does it
I
add
think,
anything?
yeah, like I think a game like WarioWare Smooth Moves is an amazing game, perfectly fit for the Wii. Okay, because that game is all about showing the different ways you can use the controller, and it's still a WarioWare game.
As opposed to like WarioWare Shake or Wario Shake It.
Wario Land Shake It, which
Yeah.
again is a phenomenal game, but that could like it feels like the Wiimote is forced in there as
Same thing
opposed to
like Donkey
creating an
Kong Country. Donkey Kong Country Returns at the same thing, I remember.
yeah, the whole shake the Wiimote up and down to like pound the ground. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, none of those are bad, but a similar thing happened with the Wii U, where you have this idea for your console, and while you may have different game ideas that benefit from that idea, I guess, like
hmm
so
The dual screen type of thing, or the screen with
yeah.
the tablet.
So the Wii U is dual screens, the Wii has motion controls. Again, even with the Wii U, there are plenty of games which are great games, but they're not really they could have been made for another Nintendo console without this second screen gimmick. And the point I'm getting at with all of this is when you name your console Wii U, it makes sense that you're branching off of this idea of the Wii. Okay, you want it to be the revolution of the Wii. You
Quote
want to
unquote.
yeah, you want to take the ideas of the Wii and apply it to your next console. And from a company standpoint, that makes sense. The Wii is your most successful gaming console of all time. Yeah, you better take a few notes from why that is and apply that to your next console.
Now, let me ask you, do you think that there was a little bit of arrogance or pride from Nintendo because of that coming off the success of the Wii? Because the Wii was one of those successes that nobody could have predicted. It was just one of those things that just hit like lightning that they were trying, in my opinion, I felt like they were trying to capture again in a bottle the second time around with the Wii U. Like, I remember one of the biggest things that a lot of people had a problem with, as the life cycle started to pick up with the Wii U after the initial release, was about the third party support. If you remember, that was one of the things I think that they showed during their Nintendo E3 presentation about the third party games that were coming to the Wii console. That there was stuff like, again, I think it was like Mass Effect 3, I think at one point. There was also the Batman Arkham City. I think it
Yep.
was Arkham City Armored Edition. There was all this stuff. And then as I think it was like not even too long later afterwards, you saw almost no third party games in the Wii whatsoever. It's like everybody just dropped it like a bad habit.
Yeah, okay. So just to finish up my previous thought. So the Wii U naming, okay, I do not like the name, but I don't blame them for putting Wii in the title. In fact, I swear if they just called it the Wii 2 instead of the
That's what
Wii
everybody thought
U.
it was going to be
Yeah, okay.
called.
Yeah, like that would have worked tremendously. Or, if you want it if just adding a letter like that for
I
some
don't get
reason
what the
consumers
U
aren't
is
going to do
for, to be honest with you. Did you ever understand that, what the U
well,
is for?
I think Reggie said that Wii, the gaming console, was commonly associated with the word we, like we the people.
hmm
So he wanted to. The idea behind the gaming console was bringing people in the family living room together,
Yeah.
and so
Oh, playing
you
on your own
would
away
play,
from them, like when you have the TV.
yeah, or something like that. Yeah, it's just like it's this idea of everyone in the family being able to play a game, and we the people and you the player, something. I don't know. I'm a terrible explainer. I'm sorry.
Here, you
Okay,
know what I
so
also wanted to bring up too? I think also the way I interpret it, even though I never understood why it was called Wii U or like the significance of the U, I always thought that it had to relate to Miiverse, like it was Wii Universe or something like that at the time, anyway.
no, no, that's not a bad idea. But okay, so to answer your next question about third-party support, uh, Nintendo. What a lot of people might not know is that Nintendo has had a lot of bad history with third-party
Oh
support.
yeah,
This
definitely.
isn't just for the Wii U. This was the same way with
Back
the
on
game.
NES and Super
Yeah,
Nintendo.
the GameCube. Yeah, like you look at these game consoles and you'll say, well, there's plenty of third-party support, Yoshiller, and yeah, there is, but not at first. It's Nintendo always has these rocky roads because back in the day, the reasoning was Nintendo owned the rights to their cartridges, and
Exactly.
the cartridges were very, very limited in space. So a game developer, is like, well, why should I struggle to make my game on your cartridge when I can have a lot more freedom developing it for a disc on another system?
There was also
So,
the other thing too that you should mention also is that at one point I think it was both the NES and the Super NES era where they had the developers of the games and the publishers had to go to Nintendo and buy the cartridges from them. They had to buy the
yep,
hardware stuff for them in order to actually ship their consoles out there. So they had to pay Nintendo a significant amount.
yep. So the point with all this is Nintendo has actually become a lot more lenient toward their requirements, I guess. Like that's why independent developers are a lot more common on modern Nintendo systems with the 3DS and the Wii U. Whereas on the Wii, you did not see a whole lot of indie developers. Like you saw maybe the company Nicholas publish indie games like Cave Story onto the Wii,
Yeah, I remember that.
and that was about it. You might find one or two other games, but the Wii was not very booming with indie games. The DSi, when it had DSiWare, not very booming with indie games. But in contrast, the Wii did have a lot of third-party games, and the DS, not maybe not the DSiWare, but the DS did have a lot of third-party games. So what
Yeah,
changed between the Wii U and the 3DS? Just the company falling behind, other companies wanting to work with other things. I guess a lot of people did get scared by the fact that there's a second screen. Our game wasn't meant to have a second screen. Uh, and not to mention that when the Wii U first launched, it sold through its initial shipment, which is good no matter how you
yeah,
look at it. You might even say, well, you Schiller, they only put like 200,000 into circulation.
yeah.
Okay, well,
Nintendo does that all the time with their
that's a
supply and
supply
demand.
demand thing, trying to meet demand. That's economic stuff. It's no need to go into detail about it here. Point is, they were trying to see how much they wanted to sell, and once they sold through their first shipment and they started releasing more shipments, they realized that the Wii U was not selling so hot. So a lot of developers look at that and say, so
Why
you
put our
want
games on
me,
there?
yeah, you want me to figure out how to use your second, how to use your second screen, struggle to fit it within the Wii U's limitations because it's not as powerful as other consoles, and you want me to release it for a game console that's not selling as well as other competitors right now. Of course, a company's going to say, yeah, no, we're
And
not doing
that's
it.
all before having to deal with all the stuff as far as like the software working on there on the actual hardware itself. That's before getting into any of the actual peripheral stuff like that. Because I know it's always a pain in the butt for developers to go from system to system. Not so much now these days because the PS4, the Xbox One, there works very similar to PCs. So the transferring process between the ports is not that bad. But back in the day, it used to be a lot more annoying, especially going from PS3, which was a cell processor, over to something different, which was like on the Wii or the Wii U or the Xbox 360.
Right, and even beyond that, uh, like a lot of companies don't like having restrictions. And I'm sure that could go for anybody with a creative mind. You don't want to have a restriction. You want to figure out how to do whatever it is you want to do in the easiest way possible. The second you put a restriction on it, well, you might not want to do it anymore. You might want to say, I want to make a movie. But then when you realize budget costs and finding actors and putting sets together and hiring editors and learning green screen effects and all that, yeah, you probably get turned away from wanting to make a movie.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
naturally a game developer is going to be like, okay, let's make a game. Oh, but we have to work with these restrictions. Got to figure out some method of using the second screen. Probably won't make that much in profits. Never mind. Indie developers, on the other hand, are a lot more passionate, I want to say. Like they might not be as concerned with money. They just want to put a game onto a Nintendo
They
console.
wanted the exposure, really.
Yeah, they want, and some of them can think of cool things to put on the second screen, even if it is just a map. Uh, anyway, your actual question, I guess I've been going on a tangent here. Your actual question was, what do I think of third party support on the Wii U, and why do I think it's dropped? Well,
Well,
I gave
well,
the answer as to
obviously
why I
it's
think
been
it's dropped.
terrible. It's been
Yeah,
terrible overall. Like that's
it's
the one
been
thing we could say.
yeah, it's been bad. Um, and I don't think it helps that like the NX has been known to be in development for like a year or so now,
Yeah, something
right?
like that. Yeah.
So it doesn't help that a company would know that and say like, well, why should I develop for this when you're just going to release a new console in like a year or two?
Let alone tell everybody about it. I think that's what really confused about a lot of people, how they kind of almost nonchalantly a little bit talked about it. And I think that had to do with two reasons. Number one, that got unveiled during that whole presentation when they were unveiling their partnership with DNA, which
Yeah,
they had
yeah,
their idea where they wanted to assure everybody they were still going to be doing console development, for the home consoles and obviously the 3DS and stuff. But I think that was kind of like again maybe a pick your poison type of scenario.
yeah. Yeah. And do I think the NX will have good third-party support? I don't know. I can't tell you. A lot of companies seem interested in it, but that's
We don't even know
interested.
what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. So, Nintendo having third-party issues, it's not unheard of, and it's just unfortunate that had to get added on to the unfortunate success of the Wii U. And it's like this hamster wheel where the Wii U doesn't sell well, so developers don't want to develop for it, and because developers don't want to develop for it,
Nobody buys it.
people aren't prompted to buy a Wii U. Yeah, so it goes in this cycle. Okay,
Now here's
so
the thing. Now
yeah, go ahead.
here's the funny thing about that, because despite the really lack of like real support of third parties and stuff, you still have obviously your Nintendo first parties, which are quality games for whatever Nintendo hardware. Obviously, that's a given at this point because they make the hardware, they know how to make the hardware work. Here's the cool thing about it. There's a lot of great first party games, or at least first party published, or at least, I should say Nintendo published games, because games like Bayonetta 2 and games like Wonderful 101 aren't necessarily first party developed games. They're still developed by a third party, but they're published by Nintendo like
Right.
that. So, but you still have all those great games that are exclusive that are either first party developed or first party published like that. Like games like, again, Super Mario 3D Worlds. So, what is it? New Super Mario Brothers U, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Wonderful 101, Bayonetta 2, Smash, Mario Kart 8. The list goes on and stuff. I mean, what do you think of as far as like overall the entire games library for the Wii U? Like, yay or obviously we both love the Wii U, so technically yay. But for someone that doesn't know anything about the Wii U, like that, do you think like that would be a great Nintendo console for them to actually dive into stuff as far as the Nintendo ecosystem?
Yeah, I actually do. And I could definitely look at previous presentations that Nintendo put together, like the directs and their press releases and stuff, and just see how much Nintendo was trying to push this Wii U with all the bundles. You might remember when Mario Kart 8 came out, Nintendo said if you buy Mario Kart 8, you get another
Oh yeah,
downloadable game for free.
oh yeah.
Like Nintendo really pushed this. When Smash came out, hey, register the 3DS and Wii U versions and get a free CD on Club Nintendo. They really were pushing the Wii U. And a lot of people are so focused on the death of the Wii U that they forget about the life that it had.
There's all these
Okay?
great games still to play.
It has a lot of great games. Like you say Super Mario 3D World, that is a phenomenal game. You play it with 4 people. It has great length. It's very visually impressive.
And
And
something to kind of piggyback off of that, I feel like a lot of people give that game a little bit of crap because the game, obviously, Super Mario 3D Land was on 3DS, and the territory is kind of familiar, with the exception of some of the new additions like, the Cat Bell and all these other stuff, and the ability to play with the other characters, and co-op and stuff like that. And I feel like that game gets a little bit unjustifiably kind of like shunned away as like a great game on the console.
yeah, that's game design, though. Game design, you should reuse as many assets as you can because it saves production costs and it saves time. Like Smash Wii U would not have been out in 2014 if they did not reuse assets. Okay, it
Yeah,
wouldn't have
exactly.
happened. So, like, I don't get why so many people get mad at reusing a concept or reusing an idea. People say it's lazy, and like, yeah, I guess it could be lazy, but I don't think, at least with Nintendo, they're concerned about being lazy. They're concerned about saving time and meeting a deadline. So,
And making money.
yeah. So anyway, so the life of the Wii U. Yeah, you've got games like Super Mario 3D World, and even beyond that, okay, the Wii didn't have Star Fox. The Wii U did. The
Exactly.
Wii didn't have a new Pikmin game. It had new Play Control Pikmin, but it didn't
We got
have
Pikmin
a new.
3.
Yeah, the Wii U had Pikmin 3, and the Wii didn't have a Yoshi game. The Wii U did, and a phenomenal one at that. Now the
I
Wii
love
also
Yoshi's Woolly World. That's an
yeah.
awesome game.
So the Wii, yeah, to be fair, the Wii also had Metroid and Punch-Out and Fire Emblem. The Wii U doesn't have any of those, unless you want to count Tokyo Mirage Sessions as a Fire Emblem game, which I do not. But you have people are so quick to dismiss the Wii U, yet they forget that these Wii U games have added something great to a lot of these franchises. Now, not every Wii U game has been a super success. Like,
But they've been great quality though. That's the thing. You got to give
yeah,
Nintendo credit on that. Like
yeah,
especially in a time frame when there at least I forgot which releases specifically, but I know there was Nintendo games coming out on Wii U that were first party during the same time when other games were being released on both PlayStation 4 as well as also Xbox One that weren't working on day one, or even PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. They weren't working on day one. They were either getting day one patches, they were requiring patches like updates down the line to make them functional. One thing I will always say about Nintendo games, even on the Wii U or any Nintendo platform for that matter, they always worked clear cut straight out of the box. No
yeah,
updates required.
yeah. And like I said, not every Wii U game was a huge success. Okay, like for every Mario Kart 8, if there's a Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, that stuff happens. Okay, like let Nintendo get it out of their system.
Yeah, you're
For
gonna have
every
some
good
duds here
yeah,
and there. I
for
remember
for
seeing
every
that
good
at
game, there's
E3.
gonna be a bad game. Yeah. So, but beyond that, like the Wii U has a lot of phenomenal games. You're right. You listed some. Nintendo even had new territories on their game system with games like Nintendo Land and Splatoon.
Yes,
Ninten-
Splatoon especially.
Nintendo really experimented with DLC with New Super Luigi U and all of the wonderful Smash DLC that came
Oh
out.
yeah.
And they did 3DS DLC. They did with New Super Mario Bros. 2. I'm not going to ignore that. But the Wii U was like just really, really where Nintendo wanted to lay out the DLC hammer. Uh,
So I've been bouncing off of that, which I think we should mention too. Miiverse and Nintendo Network and stuff. That was like the first time. Besides, they did a little bit on the Wii. I'll give them that, with Smash and stuff, which in my opinion was not handled great. This is like the first console where they really got online with their online infrastructure. Even though it's not perfect, it's not as ideal as PlayStation Network or Xbox Live. It's still kind of like the groundwork or the foundation of that online infrastructure.
yeah, people like Miiverse. What can I say? If it's anything the Splatoon shows, people love Miiverse.
Damn right.
Yeah. But like even looking at the specifics of these Wii U games, like even looking at games like Pokken Tournament, which is the console's Pokemon game.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, that's definitely a game meant to appeal to a hardcore gamer. And Splatoon. Okay, yes, it's a kid friendly game. It's open to audiences, but even then, it was made with a hardcore gamer in mind. It was
That's like the
Nintendo's approach to
Nintendo
a shooter.
fans. That's the Nintendo fans Team Fortress. Like I remember when
Yeah,
that game was being shown at my first E3, and that was insane because so many people flocked to that actual those kiosks to play that game because it was so addictive at the time. Again, it had that same pull from like an Unreal Tournament, from like a Quake, from like an actual Team Fortress and stuff, but it still had that kiddie, lighthearted nature that you would find in some Nintendo titles.
right. And even Smash Wii U. Okay, which I absolutely love.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Go back and watch any of Sakurai's Smash presentations. Okay,
Those are the best
I'm,
marketing they've ever done,
yeah,
hands
I'm
down.
talking about the full-on ones that focused on Smash. Okay,
Yeah.
you're gonna look. You're telling me that a newbie's gonna watch that and they're gonna completely understand what's going on? No, those were made for veteran players, or at least people that knew about Smash Bros.
Oh yeah.
Those were made for Nintendo fans with hardcore gamers in mind.
The best thing they ever did was the 50 facts about Smash. That was the best thing. That
Yeah,
everybody got so excited about that, especially at the end.
like Sakurai knows his fans. Nintendo, I know a lot of people won't agree with this, but Nintendo does know their fans. It's just all about trying to make something that you guys will buy. It's
Exactly.
all about trying to appeal to as many people as they can, trying to rack up their sales. And so when people buy games like Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers, that tells Nintendo to make other games like those. And when people don't buy games like Mario Tennis or Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival, I don't know the actual sales figures.
Mario Party, I think, also, right?
Yeah, I don't know the exact sales figures, but when people do not buy those, that tells
Star
Nintendo.
Fox is another one, apparently.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's actually a good example. Star Fox Zero did not sell well.
Bad.
That almost tells Nintendo to not make another Star Fox game.
Which
Now
is
think what you
horrible.
want. Yeah, think what you want of Star Fox Zero, whatever. But do you want more Star Fox? Well, then you have to show it in some form, whether it's Miiverse pictures or what. So that's Nintendo for you. That's
the best explanation we could put. That's Nintendo for you.
That's the Wii U has a lot of great games. It just unfortunately was just went through one struggle after another. And you can really just see, go back through any previous Nintendo Direct presentation, all the bundles put out, all the game promotions they
You know
had.
what was crazy? Do you remember that E3 presentation? I forgot which year it was, where Reggie got on stage with Jeff Keighley on, I think it was like a G4, not G4, was it G4 TV or Spike TV during their E3 coverage, and he tried to sit down and talk to him about Batman Arkham City Armored Edition,
Right, and Reggie said he bought it himself.
and that he bought it himself, and that it was like it's not the same game, it's a totally different game. Like he was really going out there like a trooper.
Hmm. And like the point is, the Wii U has games, and it even has some great third-party games like Lego City Undercover.
Yeah, I remember. Oh man,
Like
that was way.
they're there. There's just not a lot of them, and that's the unfortunate thing, is finding the balance between quality and quantity. Because
Now,
anyone can say
yeah.
quality over quantity,
Now
but you
speaking of
have to.
that,
Yeah.
which is the best game, or at least the one game you would pick that kind of has the best balance of that, or at least really to you defines the Wii U's console generation?
Okay. So just to finish the thought, quality and quantity, you have to treat it like a tipping scale. Okay. You have to go up a little bit of quality if you want to have more quantity. Because I can make the world's most visually gorgeous game and have it only last 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Like that's not fun.
definitely not.
So okay. So what game do I think defines the Wii U? Uh okay. So there's a difference between what game do I like most on the Wii U and what game do I think defines the Wii U. The game I like playing the most on the Wii U is probably Smash.
Yeah,
I like playing
I think
Smash.
everybody's like that. Yeah,
I like Smash. What game defines the Wii U? That's a tricky question, because I could say something like Nintendo Land, which is probably one of the few games that actually like uses the gamepad in a clever manner, and with a similar answer, I can say Super Mario Maker,
true, true.
because when I look at Mario Maker, I'm like, yep, that game was made with the Wii U in mind.
I give it. I definitely could agree with you. You know what I would say though, at least for my pick, would be Splatoon. I feel like
That's what I was gonna
Splatoon,
get at. I was probably gonna
Splatoon,
say Splatoon.
Splatoon, I felt like was the best, but until just about, or even then, I would argue still for Splatoon. But even with Super Mario Maker on the market and stuff, I felt like Splatoon was not only a game that was really made for the Wii U, like utilizing that hardware well, because I feel like it used, the gamepad in a variety of different ways. Whether it's the aiming, whether it's like using the map, to kind of like figure out what you're gonna do during the course of the matchup to kind of like jump over to different spots. But I felt like that was the most original game with the Wii U in mind that was developed for the console.
So can I like branch off of that though?
Yeah,
Yeah. So like I love Splatoon, and yeah, I think when thinking of Nintendo games that really showcase the fun that could be had on the Wii U and the ideas behind the console, Splatoon comes to mind. And I either Splatoon or Mario Maker, I guess. But on that note, um, a game like Splatoon also shows how Nintendo shot themselves in the foot with the
how do you
gamepad.
say it? Explain that one.
Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about. The gamepad's cool. I like it. But how many games, uh, use the gamepad in a creative way that isn't just off TV play?
Not a lot.
Not a whole lot. Like a lot of games, although maybe the gamepad was made in mind, a lot of games feel like the gamepad is just kind of tacked on. Like
Exactly.
even Smash, you have the stage builder, but that's about it. And yeah, I'm glad that the gamepad isn't required to play Smash. It's
A
just
lot
another
of people don't
controller.
even use it to play Smash. They use the
Yeah,
GameCube controllers, or they use any of one of the other controllers.
right. Super Mario 3D World is a phenomenal game. We already said. Use the gamepad for 2 points in the game, right? To touch one
Yep.
object and to blow into the microphone. Yoshi's Woolly World is a phenomenal game.
Great game.
Yeah,
Cute as hell.
yeah. What's the gamepad really used for? Tapping an amiibo, right?
Yeah.
And Splatoon, again, I love Splatoon. What's the gamepad really used for?
Map.
Touching something on the map.
Or map or analog. No, well, non-analog controls, because you can use the gyroscope to aim and stuff. But people could turn that off.
Well, I play with it on, but like that's the issue I think Nintendo had, was they forced developers to use the gamepad, which it's a comfortable controller, but when you do that, it hinders other things like Splatoon, because a player has to use the gamepad. That's why you can't have like 2-player online like you can with
Yeah.
Mario Kart, right? Or that's why a game like or like Star Fox.
Yeah.
Okay, when you force, I don't blame them for having the gamepad being used the way it is in Star Fox. In fact, I actually think it's clever. In Star Fox Zero, you have your R-wing view on the TV and you have your cockpit view on the gamepad,
Mhm.
and I think that's really smart. But when you do that, there's no online play. You run into some difficulties in designing certain levels because the levels revolve around that mechanic. There's
There's no
not
true
even
co-op.
yeah, and there's not even local multiplayer, which a game doesn't need to have multiplayer. I get it, but that's the hindrance you put. And on the flip side, if Nintendo doesn't do those things like they did with Star Fox Zero or like Splatoon,
Mhm.
then it questions like, well, why even have the gamepad?
Exactly. That's what everybody talked about during the entire life cycle of the Wii U. Everybody just wanted, I think I remember at one point people kept asking for a bundle that didn't come with the gamepad, that just came with the Pro controller.
Yeah. So again, like at the very beginning of this conversation, I talked about how there are games like Nintendo Land that are great with the Wii U, and it's smart, and people have these cool ideas. And some companies are strayed away from developing for the Wii because they probably don't want to develop something for the gamepad.
A couple of them have even come out and like straight up said, I remember during an E3 presentation that Bethesda reps, and I think even EA said that they just don't want to do games for the Wii U.
Right. But it's a constant back and forth. Like Nintendo has to do this innovation route, and a lot of people give them slack for it. But it's like based on the success of the Wii, it makes sense that they'd want to try some new form of innovation. And having a console with two screens is not a bad idea if it's anything that the DS and 3DS showed. It's just a lot of games that they develop for it run into that issue.
Exactly. I agree. I mean, let me ask you one thing. Do you think that or maybe something else was like the one thing that really kind of like set the Wii U down on like a downward spiral?
Uh,
As far as
I,
like perception, because again, we already said like again, the console's got great games. There's some good stuff in there or whatnot, but obviously there was pretty much a kind of a state decline. Again, the console's not selling or whatnot. But what was the one thing that really did it for them, besides forcing developers to use the gamepad and such?
I actually don't think that forcing developers to use the gamepad was the reason the Wii U declined, because I like to think that the Wii U is a console version of the DS, and
Yeah, I could get behind that. Yeah.
evidently a lot of people didn't have an issue developing for the DS. Two screens might have scared people at first, but the DS turned out to be a great system.
Yeah.
I think what hurt the Wii U was the cycle issue I said earlier, where it didn't sell well, and then a lot of developers said, well, if my game's not going to sell well, I'm not going to release it for the Wii U, and then nobody buys the Wii U because that game's not on it. I think that's what hurt the Wii U. I think just that it didn't sell well initially, and then that combined with, okay, there's hardware limitations, and there's the second screen thing here. Okay, like I think all of it combined is the reason the Wii U didn't do well. I don't think it's one specific
It was a
reason.
combination of stuff.
Yeah, like just saying the Wii U didn't sell well because it had a second screen, I think that's bogus, because there are games like Nintendo
3DS
Land,
games.
yeah, or even games that don't use the gamepad that well, like Yoshi's Woolly World and like Zelda Wind Waker HD and
Yeah. Twilight
Hyrule Warriors.
Princess. Yeah.
All those games sold over 1 million units. So Splatoon, okay, Nintendo marketed the daylights out of that game, and it worked. That game sold over 4 million
A new
units.
IP.
Yeah, new IP. It was able to have new amiibo with it. Okay, and it sold tremendously well. Got great reviews across the board. Won Best Shooter from the Game Awards.
Yeah,
Like,
that I remember that. That was like a moment where everyone is like, "What?" Like that came out of nowhere.
yeah. So like to say that it's one single issue that caused the Wii to flop is a bit hard to say, because the Wii U's best games are all so different from each other.
So let me ask you this also to kind of go offshoot of that. Do you think also that maybe because there were some franchises that were notably absent from the Wii U generation that people asked for? Like I remember even at the Game Awards when they were showing stuff for Donkey Kong Country Returns, I think it was, or no, Tropical Freeze, I
Yeah,
think it was,
Tropical Freeze.
where they
Yeah.
were revealing Cranky and stuff. That one of the things that everybody kept complaining about, or at least pointing out, especially because Reggie was wearing a pin for it, was Metroid, and then also F-Zero. They're like there was legit Nintendo franchises that were just not on the actual console generation whatsoever. Do you think also that contributed it to as well? Because
Yeah. Yeah, I
the
mentioned
console
that
has,
earlier.
yeah,
Yeah.
the console has all these first parties and stuff like that. But again, even with all those first party games doing exceptionally well, still the console just wasn't meeting up to par.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that like yeah, the Wii has Metroid and Punch Out. The Wii U has Pikmin, Star Fox, and Yoshi. Uh, yeah, I actually think it's impressive that Nintendo can have so many franchises that people are complaining that they're not making a game for a
Yeah, no,
franchise.
right?
That's actually pretty impressive. Um, do I think that's the sole reason people didn't buy a Wii U? No, I don't. think that had a whole lot to do with it because it's not about what a console doesn't have; it's about what it does have.
Exactly.
And you might say, well, because it didn't have a Metroid game, people didn't buy a Wii U. I don't think people are gonna not buy a Wii U because there's no Metroid game for it. If that makes, I think that's a lot of
Unless
negative.
you're a die-hard Metroid fan, like, oh,
Yeah,
crazy. Same thing with F-Zero.
and that's like a double or triple negative. But I think people forget that a game company develops games that they want to develop, and that's why Nintendo's so good at what they do. Is because the developers that make those games want to make them. They're not, sitting at a cubicle asking for a paycheck. Like they want to
Exactly.
make those games. That's why even when Nintendo, has a financial situation, people like Iwata and Miyamoto took price cuts. They didn't fire anybody.
Very noble. Very,
Yeah,
very noble to
very,
that.
very
That
noble.
was a
Very.
testament to Iwata's character, I think.
So, uh, people complain that like, oh, Nintendo only ever focuses on Mario. Well, that's because the developers want to make a Mario game. That's because the developers want to make a Pokemon game, want to make a Zelda game, want to make Smash. There are people on the team that were complaining that they didn't get to work on Smash. I remember reading an interview from. Uh, he doesn't. He got laid off from Nintendo. People might know who I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Where he was talking about like how Nintendo of Europe was in charge of Xenoblade's localization, and people should be more thankful. Anyway, he was upset that he didn't get to work on Smash. The people that work at Nintendo want to be there. So, uh, and I'm sure that there are developers who do want to make a new F-Zero. In fact, not too long ago, it was revealed that an F-Zero game was considered for the Wii U.
Was it
Uh,
scrapped?
it was scrapped. Yeah, it was actually, I think, planned to be a launch title. But if it's anything that shows, it shows that Nintendo like is not ignorant to that. And a lot of people get mad at Miyamoto because Miyamoto says, "Oh, I don't want to develop F-Zero because I can't think of something cool to do with the gamepad." Well, Miyamoto wasn't the guy who created F-Zero. What are you getting mad at him for? That's just his input.
They just want to point fingers at somebody. Like, again, get mad at Miyamoto, get mad at Reggie, or
Right. But
anybody.
Miyamoto brings up a good point. Like, what can you do with F-Zero at this point? Well, make it HD and have online. Okay, yeah, you can do that.
That's what
But when
Fast Racer Neo is practically.
Yeah, but that is what Fast Racing Neo essentially is.
It kind of is.
But when you think of like Mario Kart, like I can see what Miyamoto's talking about, where each Mario Kart game feels so different from one another. If you just make HD F-Zero online, like what reason would I have to go back and play F-Zero X, right?
That's kind of a good point because look at the remake or the re-release for Super Mario 64 on the DS. Like that, it
Mhm.
wasn't just a straight-on remake for that game on the portable, which is awesome in of itself. But then all of a sudden now you got all these other characters. They have different abilities. They have different placements of the stars you could get. Like there's all this extra stuff that makes you want to play through that game again.
Right. Like Super Mario 64 DS is a great game. And Super Mario 64, the original one, is one of my favorite games of all time. It is my favorite game of all time, alongside with Yoshi's Island.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah. And although they're the same game, they are different. Like Mario 64, you can just go in, and the concept behind the game is this is where you start and this is where you need to go. Doesn't matter how you get there, just figure it out on your own. That's the glory that is Mario 64. You have a
Yeah,
lot of freedom, you're given a specific set of skills, and that's what you can do. Super
yeah.
Mario 64 DS kind of strips that away because it's saying, no, you have to use this character, or you have to do this star first. Like,
There's more to collect too.
yeah, there's more like I'm not saying 64 DS is a bad game, but that's a good point. When you remake a game, it's important to keep in mind that there are certain things that make the original game such a charm, and I think that that's something that the Pokemon Company did a phenomenal job with when it came to Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
Yeah.
That they were able to recapture that element of surprise, that kind of darker tone, while still adding everything that the franchise had to offer since then.
True. Now, getting back onto Wii U, one of the things I want to ask also is as we kind of like start to finish up this definitive discussion about the console. Obviously, the NX is over the horizon. Like a lot of people now at this point, they're kind of sounding the death toll, or at least putting the timer clock on for the Wii U, because at this point, for someone that's interested in Nintendo products, maybe hasn't owned a Nintendo console, or maybe they have and they want a new Nintendo console and they didn't own a Wii U. At this point, for them, or at least for some people, it doesn't make sense to go out and buy a Wii U now, despite all the great games that might be on there, because they know this new console is coming right around the corner, like that. Do you think that with Nintendo talking about the NX at the time that they did, because again, they had that DNA presentation when they were announcing the partnership, and they mentioned that there's getting another Nintendo console down the line, and then they've kind of very mildly and very shyly talked about NX here and there and stuff. Do you think that them doing that was kind of like an admission of like, okay, it's over for the Wii U?
Well, Nintendo talked about DNA and the NX at an investors meeting, and at an investors meeting, I mean, the goal is to make sure that your investors are still investing in your stocks,
Yeah,
right? The last thing you want to do is say a bunch of bad news and cause them all to
that'll
leave.
be bad.
Yeah. So like it would make sense that Nintendo would talk about the NX. And I think them mentioning the NX here and there is just to show that it's kind of just to shut fans up. Just like, okay, yes, we're working on the NX. We have nothing to announce in the moment. We'll talk about it later. We're showing Zelda at E3, not the NX. We'll talk about it
But
later.
doesn't that do harm to the Wii U though itself, since it's already
Yeah.
still on the market?
Yeah. Of course it does. I think it does a lot of harms to the Wii U, but since it has been announced at this point, like Nintendo just needs to let people know what they want them to know. So since the NX was revealed, I guess, quote, revealed.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. Nintendo is just letting people know, like, the NX is coming. It'll come out in 2017. Just, we're not ready to show it off just yet. I think that's all it really is. It's just to get people to quiet down and to stop bugging them about it. Even Kimishima, every time people ask him about the NX, he's very quiet. He never reveals any information. He'll just say something like, "The NX is coming out in 2017." Mr. Kimishima, what kind of game launch lineup can we expect on the NX? The NX is coming out in 2017. We'll reveal more information in the future.
Yeah. Do you think also that some of it also maybe had to do a little bit with obviously the passing of Satoru Iwata? Because I think that obviously after that happened, I mean, it affected everybody. It was a big deal. We saw the kind of eulogy, or at least the words that Reggie did during the video game awards and stuff. But do you think also the way that things have kind of changed now for Nintendo, how there's different stuff going on now? Again, a lot of the shift is kind of now starting to move away from the Wii U over towards the NX and stuff. Do you think that also was influenced by that?
Well, was it not Iwata that revealed the NX in that investors meeting? I think that was Iwata.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it was Iwata. I think it would have been somebody else that was there. I could be wrong though, because
Well,
it was a while ago.
let's think about this because Iwata passed away in July of 2015. It was right
After the
after
E3,
E3.
yeah.
Right. And I think even in that E3 presentation, Reggie said we'll talk about the NX more in 2016.
Mm.
So I think
He was
Iwata
probably
was
there, yeah, during the DNA, the investors
okay.
call thing, yeah. So I think you might be right.
So yeah, so the idea is like this was the plan no matter what. I think him passing definitely changed, maybe not changed, but maybe swayed the opinions of how Nintendo wanted to do things. And I think Kimishima just gets beat up because everyone's blaming Kimishima now because Nintendo's not doing so hot. And it's like, well, it's not
I don't
Kimishima's
even
fault.
understand how that even makes sense.
Like a lot of people are saying, oh, Nintendo is only showing Zelda at E3 because Kimishima's the president. It's like,
I,
well, we
I
don't
I
know
think
if
that
that was
works.
Iwata's plan.
That works,
Yeah.
I think, in their favor, because I think that at that point, again, maybe they want, the NX coming out party to actually be something really good. That it's better for them, I think, obviously, in the eyes of the public and stuff. Because granted, I'm pretty sure there's going to be other titles maybe talked about at E3. I still think that it'd be unbelievable if they just talk nothing about anything else. Because again, they have other games coming out right after E3. They have Tokyo Mirage Sessions, they got Pokemon and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But my point is that as far as like NX stuff, which is what everybody would have expected to be at E3 this coming year, or not for 2016, I think it was better for them again to kind of like, okay, take the hit for now, but then afterwards later on we'll have a better presentation, we'll have a better outlook and a better mind share for when the NX is finally put out there.
Yeah. So like, I think Kimishima is the man, dude. I think when sorry, the man, dude. Huh? I think
The
Kimishima.
man.
I think Kimishima is the man,
He's
comma,
that
dude.
dude.
Okay. I think Kimishima knows what's going on. People ask him questions. He's not oblivious. He even said something like he's aware that amiibo are being collected more by collectors than people who want to use them in a game. Okay, he's not dumb. He's a very smart guy, and I'm hoping he'll be a worthy successor to Iwata because Iwata had a huge legacy. Take
He's got big shoes.
yeah, being the next person to fill that in, no easy task. But I think Kimishima is a good choice based on his actions so far. Uh, yeah, but yeah, do I think the NX is hurting the Wii U right now? Yeah, I do. I definitely do. But is the Wii U a failure? No, the Wii U is not a failure. When we think of some of the other stuff Nintendo's done, like the vitality sensor, or the Virtual
The
Boy,
whole
the
quality
Wii
of life
U
initiative.
the Wii U didn't do well, but the Wii U is not a failure. The Wii U has a lot of great games. It has a lot of learning stepping stones that the Nintendo developers could use. And it is a great console. It just had an unfortunate history.
Well, here's the
So,
thing that I wanted to ask you then, based
yeah,
on that, is because I think that, I think it's very subjective to call a console failure or a success based off a couple different things. Like for a lot of people that are calling the Wii U a failure, I think that has to do with a lot of sales. Now,
yeah.
it obviously hasn't sold as much as maybe like the PlayStation 4 or even the Xbox One to that extent. So in the eyes of some people like that, would probably think it's a commercial failure at that point. Okay, maybe it hasn't sold as much as like previous Nintendo platforms like that. That's why it's also a failure. But also, again, like what you were just talking about now, you obviously think that it's a success. It's not a failure, but it's still a good console based off the actual lineup and the types of games that it put out there and stuff. But which one or which type of thing really defines a console being a success or a failure, or at least in your eyes?
I think it comes down to the general consensus would say that a console or
Would be sales.
any sort of product in the entertainment industry would be sales. Yeah. What determines if a movie is a success? It's is based on how well it does in the box office, not the review scores it gets on Metacritic.
Yeah.
And while yeah, review scores can sway people to watch or not watch a movie, it ultimately comes down to sales. Uh, and that's what I was saying earlier with like Star Fox Zero. If Star Fox Zero didn't sell well, that kind of tells Nintendo not to make another game like that. And so Star Fox Zero, in that sense, could be considered a failure, even though like the game's not glitchy, the game,
It has some issues, but it's
yeah,
not a terrible game. Like
right.
even in my own review, I scored it like a 70-ish around out of 100, and I said like even though I have these problems with it, it's still not a bad game. Like if anything, it's the best looking Star Fox game to date.
And when I played when I played the Wii U back in E3 2012, I liked what I played. When I played it at the Wii U experience, I liked what I played. When I got the game console in my own hands, I liked what I played. Pretty much, I'm not going to say every single game, but almost every game I've gotten, I've liked what I played. So is the game a failure financially? I wouldn't even say that because it still sold several million units. Maybe not as well as other Nintendo systems. Okay, certainly not as well as the Wii.
I don't
But
think anybody will match up to the Wii now, at least Nintendo
yeah,
wise.
yeah. I think it's a good learning experience, which sounds like a cop out answer, but you know, I don't think it's a failure. I think it is a wonderful console, and I think that people are so focused on the death of the console that they forgot what the Wii U did during its prime.
True. Good points. Do you think Zelda Wii U is the final last hurrah? The Wii U. Granted, there's other games coming out now. Again, like I mentioned, Tokyo Mirage Sessions or whatnot. Again, we just had Star Fox Zero, but I think Zelda Wii U is probably like the last big game for the console's library, right?
Probably the last first party game, I'd say. Yeah, there might still be a couple games afterward, kind of like how there was with the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, Zelda Wii U is probably the last Wii U game, if not Paper Mario, because that's all we know. That's the only other game we know is in development right now that's not out
Oh yeah, that's
worldwide
right.
yet.
I forgot about Paper Mario. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure development teams at this point have shifted their focus toward the NX, and I'm fairly certain that you might get one or two games after the Wii U, but not much longer after the Wii U.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, I think Zelda Wii U would be more or less Nintendo's last hurrah for the console,
Yeah. I agree. I think again, like I said, I
which is a
think
good
that
way to go out,
I
mind
think
you,
it's a
because
great way to go out.
yeah,
It's a Zelda game. I mean, granted, don't get me wrong. I think we both would be in agreement. Like we wish we had that game a lot earlier. Remember that game's been talked about for a while now. I think it's
oh
like
yeah,
almost 3 years now at this point that
yep,
Zelda Wii
since
has been talked
E3
about.
2014.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember everybody being really hyped up about that game. But now it's not just going to be Zelda Wii U. It's also going to be Zelda NX at this point. Maybe we'll know more. Besides E3, when we finally see it, and we finally play it. This year at E3, we'll know more about it. Hopefully by the time after the Nintendo Direct for the Nintendo NX down the line, whenever they decide to have that and stuff. But either way, Yoshiller, thank you for coming on here, talking Wii U, talking Nintendo with me.
It has been a pleasure being on the show. Thank you for inviting me. I apologize if I rambled and didn't make sense at times, but hopefully I was able to explain everything that I wanted to explain.
Nonsense. The Nintendo fans got some good talk. They will like it. They will
Well, thank
enjoy
you very
it.
much.
So tell everybody, where can they find you?
Where can you find me? Well, my username is Yoshiller. If you go to youtube.com/Yoshiller, or if you look up Yoshiller2, you'll be taken to the same place. You'll be taken to my YouTube channel where I post new videos every single day at noon Pacific time. My Twitter account is at Real Yoshiller, or I'm sure if you just go on Twitter and look up Yoshiller, you'll find me anyway. It's the one with the Yoshi hat. And I also write part-time for GoNintendo.com. So you might see a few articles written by myself on there as well.
Nice, nice. Now, obviously, you're going to E3 this year, which is going to
I
be
am.
awesome. I'm going out there. We're going to see all the cool Nintendo stuff out there at E3. Hopefully, they got something crazy for Zelda Wii U, which, again, that's going to be the main game that they're going to have playable on the floor, guys, that hopefully everybody's going to lose their mind out over. What are you expecting for, was it Zelda Wii U out there when we go to E3?
Oh, well, what would I like and what am I expecting? What would I
Or at
like?
least, what do you want to
Yeah,
see, I
yeah.
guess I
What
should
do I
say.
want to see? Well, when I went in 2012 and Nintendo's main game was Nintendo Land, Nintendo Land took up like half of Nintendo's booth, and they had this pretty cool looking display, and they had 5 different Nintendo Land games available, and every time you played one, you'd get a pin.
Yeah, I remember that.
Or even 2015 with Mario Maker being the main game.
Yep,
Every
I
time you
remember
played one
those.
game,
Those were
you get.
awesome.
I think it could be cool if Nintendo has this big Zelda display and like they had 5 or 6 different demos that let you play different dungeons. Like maybe there's a fire dungeon, an
Ooh,
ice dungeon, a water dungeon, and each one gives you like a different pin or a badge or something.
that'd be
That could be
awesome.
cool.
That
What
would
am I
be legit.
expecting? I'm thinking it's gonna be a smaller area. I think Nintendo's trying to hold back. They're not, doing a Best Buy experience this year. I think Nintendo's just gonna have a small area, or maybe a big area, but smaller in comparison to previous years, where it's just some kiosks with Zelda Wii U hooked up and some people ready to explain what the game's all about. No places to take pictures, no places to get signatures. I think it's just gonna be a carpet space with some Zelda hooked up, which
Uh,
isn't bad, but in comparison to previous years, I think it won't be as exciting.
Yeah, true. I'm hoping they do like what they did with Twilight Princess. Remember that year at E3 that's all over the place that they have the different animatronics.
I wasn't there.
I
I don't
mean,
even think
I
I
wasn't
saw.
there, but it still looked
Yeah,
awesome.
that must have been 2005, right? I don't think I saw what that looked like.
There's video on YouTube now. Whenever you get a chance, look it up. Like they had a Wolf Link that actually was an animatronic, and they had like all these other cool ones by their booth that was like really kind of again celebrating Twilight Princess coming out on the GameCube, and it just looked awesome from what
See,
people saw.
that'd be cool. I do feel that Nintendo's just trying to hold back this year. Like I think that they're going for a budget cut this year,
You go
but
for a
we'll
budget
see.
cut.
Well, I think that actually is what they're trying to do. But well, if they have that, if they really want to go all out with the Zelda theme, I think that could actually be pretty cool. But we'll see.
Budget cut Nintendo. That I want to remember that. That's awesome.
Well, it's not awesome actually, but
It's
okay.
not awesome. Don't get me wrong, but the phrasing is hilarious.
Right? Yeah, I know. I got you.
But yeah. Anyway, thank you for coming on, talking Nintendo Wii U, talking Nintendo stuff. We'll see you at E3, which is gonna be awesome. It's gonna be
Yeah,
cool.
thank you very much.
So anyway, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this definitive discussion about the Nintendo Wii U here on the Gamers with Games channel. Again, leave me a like, leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you guys want to see on the next episode of Definitive Discussion, who you want to see, what you guys want to see us talk about. Don't forget to hit me up on Twitter at VenomousFatman1. Follow me on Twitch. And again, just leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment, and all that jazz. I will talk to all of you again very soon. Peace out. Stay epic, everybody.
Bye, humans.